Believe it or not, and if you walked outside, it's probably hard to believe, especially if you're in Pittsburgh right now. But baseball season's right around the corner. In fact, from the day this video comes out, it is exactly 2 weeks until pitchers and catchers report to Bradenton for the start of Pittsburgh Pirates spring training. February 11th. And in fact, if your name's Paul Skenes or O'Neill Cruz, as we learned earlier today, you'll be reporting a couple days earlier than that on February 9th in preparation for the World Baseball Classic. So baseball is, again, believe it or not, considering it was just negative 25 degrees out earlier this week, baseball is coming, and it's coming rather quickly. And with that is plenty of storylines this spring. Connor Griffin is probably 1.1 in that category. Everybody wants to know, where will Connor Griffin be starting this season? Will he be going back to Toontown, Altoona, and playing for the Curve? He only played in 23 or 24 if you include playoff games last year. Will he be going to Indianapolis to make his debut at the AAA level, or is he going to skip all of that and make his MLB debut on March 26th? That's a huge storyline. The new guys are going to get a lot of attention. Guys like Ryan O'Hearn, guys like Brandon Lau, because they were brought in to kind of change the trajectory of the Pirates offense in 2026. A lot of people are going to want to see what that looks like. You know, it's been a lot of anticipation up to this point, and I'm sure everybody's excited to see those guys swing the bat a few times, to see those guys hit the ball out of the yard a few times. And then there's even the question marks of, well, are there going to be more additions? That's a storyline going into spring training. General Manager Ben Cherington has talked about the fact that he doesn't believe that he's done adding to this team. And that's a good thing, because the more you add, the more talent you collect, the better they're going to be in the long run, as long as you get the right pieces. But that's a story for a different day. I think we all know, though, the biggest headline of this season for the Pirates, and it's pitching. Pitching is going to tell the story of the 2026 Pittsburgh Pirates. And there's one pitcher in particular that I want to talk about today, and this will be part one of a 2-part X Factor series that I'm doing leading up to the opening of spring training. One pitcher, one position player. But I'm starting with pitching because it is the biggest storyline going into this season. There are a handful of starters that we kind of know what to expect from. Paul Skenes, we know, is going to go out there and he's going to be a Cy Young level pitcher this season. Whether or not he wins it for the second year in a row is a different conversation. But we know that day in and day out, week in and week out, Paul Skenes is going to be one of the best pitchers in the National League, if not the entire major leagues. So we know that. Mitch Keller is probably one of, if not the most consistent pitchers in baseball right now. He's going to eat up some innings, and he's going to do it at a pretty solid clip, pitching at a pretty consistent clip, as he's always done. Go and look at his stats over the past 4 or 5 seasons. They're all pretty much identical to each other. So you know what you're expecting. You know what you're getting out of Mitch Keller. And even Bubba Chandler. Bubba Chandler is the number 2 prospect in baseball, coming off of a year where he got just a cup of coffee at the end of the season at the MLB level. I mean, shoot, he was called up August 22nd and made his debut out of the bullpen to boot. But I still think you kind of know what to expect with Bubba Chandler. He's going to come and be ready to be a number 3 starter, if not a number 2 starter for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Which leaves another name that I think is the X factor for the Pirates pitching staff going into 2026. And that's Braxton Ashcraft. I think that he is the key to the Pirates pitching staff in 2026. The key to them finding the success that everybody is expecting them to have. If you look back at last season, Braxton Ashcraft was a rookie. He finished 4-4 with a 2.71 ERA and 69 2/3 innings pitched at the MLB level. He had 71 strikeouts last year to just 24 walks. He finished the season with 118 total innings, which is going to be very important considering coming into this season There's a lot of other young guys that are going to be on pitch counts, that are going to be on inning counts. The fact that he's already reached 118 means that he's probably going to finish, if he stays healthy, as the number 3 guy on the Pirates in innings pitched this year. He jumped from 73 in 2024 to 118 in 2025, and I would assume that you're going to see a pretty similar jump in 2026. And the thing is, last year, he proved that all he wants to do is win. He proved that you can put him in difficult situations, in different situations, and he's just going to come out and be the same exact guy, no matter whether it's the first inning and he's a starting pitcher, or if it's the 9th inning and he's trying to shut the door on the opponent. He spent most of last year as a reliever, finishing with a 3.22 ERA out of the bullpen in just 36 and a third innings pitched. And then he started in 8 games, pitching almost an identical amount of innings, 33.1 to the 36 that he pitched as a reliever, but his ERA dropped when he got the opportunity to be a starter. 2.16 ERA in 8 starts for Braxton Ashcraft. Which begs the question, how did this guy get lost in the shuffle? Obviously, Paul Skenes was having a sub-2 ERA Cy Young season. That's going to garner a lot of the attention. Mitch Keller was getting the typical Mitch Keller praise because, like I said, one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball right now. But a lot of attention was going to Mike Burrows and that nasty changeup that he was displaying all season long. He was getting more starts than Braxton Ashcraft, so he was also getting more attention than Braxton Ashcraft. And then at the end of the year, it was Johan Oviedo's turn. He comes back from a prolonged injury. He gets hot at the end of last season. He starts to dominate off the bump. Well, now, both of those two guys, Mike Burrows and Johan Oviedo, are gone. Traded this offseason in order to bring in those bats we talked about, Brandon Lau, Yostinson Garcia from the Boston Red Sox. And now the spotlight will get shined on Braxton Ashcraft. Here's why he's the key. The Pirates, as I mentioned already, have a no-doubt top 3. It's Skenes, Keller, and Bubba Chandler. Those final 2 spots are up for grabs, and there is a handful of pitchers going into training camp that could secure those spots. I think everybody agrees that going into camp, Braxton Ashcraft is on the inside looking out of that starting 5. But you have him, you have Hunter Barco, who made his MLB debut late last season, You have Thomas Harrington, who's looking to prove something this year and get back to the major leagues and make an impact. And you have a guy who made it known last year that he wants to be a starting pitcher in this league in Carmen Mlodzinski. He was really good out of the bullpen, and he was willing to do that towards the latter part of the season, but he started a lot of games last year. And while there's 2 spots open, you bet your butt that he's going into spring training, trying to secure one of those 2 spots. So you look at those 4, you add possibly a left-handed veteran, because there's always been a left-handed veteran, and you say, okay, there's about 5 or maybe even more, because I'm sure somebody's going to come out of the woodwork, 5 or maybe even more pitchers that are going to vie for those 2 spots to start the season. And then you can even add Jared Jones into this equation about midway through the year in late May, early June, maybe even July. But I think when you look at this, at least to start the season, without a doubt, Braxton Ashcraft is the guy with the most successful MLB tenure of the 4. So what I want to see out of Braxton Ashcraft is him establish himself as the Pirates' number 4. They have those big names at the front of the rotation. They need him to fill that number 4 spot and essentially do what he did last year. Do his job and fade into the back. Because he's not a guy that's going to, pump up the crowd. He's not a guy that's going to get overly animated. He's going to go out there, he's going to punch tickets, and then he's going to go back to the dugout. And if he's able to do that, and do that over time, the way that he was able to do in his first 8 starts last year, that takes the Pirates pitching staff from being good and or really good to being great. That's how you finish. With instead of just, oh, they're around the number 5 spot in the MLB as far as starting rotations. That's how you finish first or second. And I think that's what Bill Murphy's trying to do, knowing where the Pirates are at. They have added offense, but they are ultimately going to go as far as their pitching staff takes them. And if they can get Braxton Ashcraft to be a solidified, bona fide starting pitcher in the number 4 slot, that takes that starting rotation to a whole new level. And that leads this team the way everyone is expecting this team to be led. Pitching first, hitting second. You're hoping the hitting comes along a lot more than it did last year, and they made the additions. I mean, we've talked about O'Hearn. We've mentioned Lau. I like Jake Mangum a whole lot as a leadoff guy this year. But I think in order to take advantage of that bump in the offense, they need a player like Braxton Ashcraft to stick his foot in the dirt and just be the dude for them at that number 4 slot in the rotation. And the number 5 slot, I mean, it could be Barco. It could be that lefty reliever, your Andrew Heaney of 2026, your Rich Hill of 2026, your Jose Quintana of 2026. Shoot, it might just be Jose Quintana. But that number 5 can be almost anything if you can get a starting 4 of Skenes, Keller, Chandler, and Braxton Ashcraft clicking on all cylinders. So let me know in the comments section, is that the starting pitcher that can really solidify this Pirates rotation? Is that the guy that you think is the X factor in the same way that I do? And let me know in the comment section as well. Who do you think is the X factor as far as position players going into this season? We'll have that video for you next week. And in order to see that video, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this channel at Nick Belsky for more videos on the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and even the red-hot Pittsburgh Penguins. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.